Hey everyone, it's time for another couple chat. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper.
So here we are in our new filming location, and we basically reorganized the house a little bit, and now we have this much larger room for offices and for our storage.
Yeah, for food storage and business and all that. So it's exciting. So yeah, it was the living room, then it was the boys' room. Now it's offices and storage, and so we're just sort of figuring out how to. It's a massive project though. So it's like basically 2 entire bedrooms plus this giant room, which was 2 entire bedrooms. So yeah, it's crazy. So we're switching everything around, and
That's the mess you see.
good, yeah, all this. So we're still needing to go through things and stuff, but the boys are happily set up in their new rooms and their old rooms. Anyway, it's just, we're just arranging stuff, but it's exciting because you can see two shelves back here, 2 shelving units, kind of like we had in the other room. But we do have a 3rd shelf now, and I'm very excited about that. So I'm excited to have an extra shelf, a little bit of extended pantry space, and I think it's going to be just really great for us. So yeah, I'm excited about that, but we were still very much still in the middle of it. But anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. So
if you guys have ever moved anything, you know it takes forever.
Yeah. And then try doing it with a potty training child running around. So yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah. All right. So are we ready?
Yeah.
For the main topic, such as it is.
Yep. So we're talking today about prepping as a lifestyle, which you probably noticed from the title of this video. Surprise!
I was drinking. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, basically looking at what is prepping, and is it a part of our lives or is it our lives? And just kind of diving into that.
It's who I am as a person. It's my identity.
Just on YouTube.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know what made us start thinking about it, but I don't know. I was thinking about how we were and kind of how we have been, long before we ever realized we were preppers, like we were preppers. And I think that happens a lot. Like there's a lot of people like that, without maybe some of the specific knowledge that is necessary in order to do it effectively. We were definitely those ones who thought, as long as the pantry was stuffed, that's a ton of food. That's a huge amount of food. Not really realizing, of course, before we learned, just how much food is required for kind of longer term issues or whatever, whether it's a disaster, whether it's just, somebody loses a job, or you need to, really pinch pennies. You have a giant car repair bill you didn't expect. And so isn't it really handy to be able to take an entire month and not have to buy anything at the grocery store? And there's so many millions of reasons that I don't think that we need to really get into why it's super, handy and wonderful to have a nice stock of food on hand. But yeah, so we were kind of, before we had the skills, I feel like we had the drive or the desire or that was our personality. Yeah, looking ahead, planning ahead, always, stocking up on sales, doing, stuff like that. So yeah, that was us long before we were ever preppers, or before I ever knew what a prepper was. I didn't. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the whole prepper thing as like a entity is relatively new, honestly. But people have been prepping for forever and ever.
Yeah.
It used to be how people existed,
and
now
that's how we survive.
Now it's like a fringe of society.
Right. We're on the fringe. And then we're even, because we're vegan, so we're like on the fringe of the fringe. Like the fringiest of fringes. That's us. So yeah.
There's a cat in our yard.
It is. I know, I was seeing. That's our cat. We have a cat.
We have a cat now, apparently.
Which is not really our cat, but he lives in our yard. It's a really pretty black and orange cat. So now in the new space, the window no longer overlooks the front yard. Now the window overlooks the backyard. So I have a really beautiful view of our garden, and I really love it. And then, yeah, our little friend was in there. We have a giant patch of catnip, so that might be why we get the visits. But anyway, yeah, so prepping used to be a fringe thing, or now it's a fringe thing, but it used to be like the way that people survived.
Yeah. It used to be you harvested your wheat and then stored it.
Right.
And you would survive on that for time.
Right. Or, you know, putting things up for the winter and things like that. Like, yeah. Or, I mean, even like, because I've seen like it's couple, because you guys know, like, we're Christian too. So, that.
Extra fringe.
So it's like the fringe of the fringe of the fringe, because we're vegans, but we're like Christians and we're preppers. And like, so it's like, oh my gosh, what group do we fit into? I don't even know. Whatever. We just make our own group. But like even biblically, right? Because like I've seen people talk about like not preparing because like they just, God is sovereign and God will take care of them. And if God wants them to live, he'll have them live. And if not, then they won't. And it's like kind of like a really fatalistic, very passive stance on life, based on God's sovereignty. And it's like, that's totally not, anyway, that's a whole other, I won't get into all that, but like, what about like Joseph? Like Joseph put up, you know, like they had the 7 years of plenty before the 7 years of famine. And so that entire thing, they were storing extra for the years of famine. And then they were able to help other people. So it's like, I feel like it's even biblical. It's not like spitting in the sovereignty of God.
Yeah.
To like prep. So anyway, sorry, that's like a whole other thing. Like I won't get too much into that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that that everybody isn't a prepper now. I think we've talked about this before, but for us, with our personalities and our general mindset about life that we've always had, when we experienced 2020, March, April 2020, that was educational for us. So we saw that our system wasn't sufficient for what we needed it to be. So our response was to make our system sufficient, and then not everybody else did.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're talking about. Like we are the type of people that would see a situation like that and say, oh, this was a warning.
Yeah.
Turns out we're not prepared enough for what is probably going to happen in the future because of all this.
Right. And that, well, but also it was twofold. It was both of those. It was, we recognized there were places where it wasn't enough, but then there were also places where we were really set. So like, because like I said, we usually pretty much have always operated with a very full pantry. Like at the absolute very beginning, when store shelves were clearing and nobody had any food, we still had plenty.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of like, as the months wore on, the thing that started really hitting us hard were limits at the grocery stores. Because you could, for instance, you could only buy, you know, like at a certain store we shopped, you could only buy 4 cans of beans at a time. And it was like, I used 4 cans of beans in one meal, you know? So that sort of, it educated us and got us to start deviating. And then like thinking again, like rounding it out, like prepping, it's not just, like you were saying before we started filming, it's not just about putting the stuff on the shelf. It's like your lifestyle and the way that you live. And so that's where I started going away so much from canned beans and cooking far more dried beans and stocking up on dried beans, because I could get far more dried beans than canned beans at a time. And like, you know, in the early days, everybody was still terrified of everything. And it, like, I found myself at the grocery store every 2 days to get stuff just because of limits. And then that was a really awesome it was an awesome opportunity, honestly, to really see what were the holes in our preps. And then we began to slowly kind of realize that we needed more, but also we needed to be mindful of like all these little things that you don't think about, things like condiments and things like, you just sort of don't think about stuff. And so how do you get that together in a way that yeah, like we can actually stay out of the store, like and away from all the people, you know, like we're supposed to be, but like we couldn't. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting and kind of funny, because I was like, I've always, so this is like talking about the lifestyle, right? You end up being more solutions oriented, and you end up being, you know, like thinking about what can I do, where can I go that people aren't going, or what can I do that people aren't doing. And for us, one of the main sources in the early days when other stores were clear, we started shopping at the Asian markets because everybody was still so paranoid, I guess. Paranoid.
The China flu.
The China virus or something. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying that like as a derogatory thing at all towards
just what people were saying.
China, but yeah. So that like when I started hearing all of this stuff, and then I started thinking to myself, I wonder if anybody's going to the Asian markets or if everybody's too scared. Like it's like, are you somehow more likely to catch something at the Asian market than you are at like Whole Foods? So I started shopping at the Asian market, and sure enough, shelves were packed.
Beans and rice everywhere.
Rice. They were out of rice for a very long time, but yeah, it was like every single shelf was full, and there weren't huge limits. So I started going to the Asian market and getting tons of our stuff from the Asian market, and that really, really helped us. So yeah, it's like being creative and okay, I can't, like I'm feeling a block here, so I'm gonna sidestep it here, you know. So I feel like that too is a lot of like the prepper, prepper. It's not like that's just a name now because everybody has to label everything now. Now that we're supposed to not be about labels, everything is labeled. Anyway, whatever. That's another whole question. Or that's another whole conversation, you know. But yeah. So anyway, it was just interesting.
Yeah.
But that's like another thing, yeah, to be creative and kind of figure stuff out. So I feel like that's a really big part of being a prepper, as who you are, as your lifestyle, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, like Kathy said, it's not just about putting stuff onto a shelf. It's really about...
So actually, you said that.
Well, yeah,
and then I said that you said it.
Okay, well, the thing that I said, without saying it. The thing I had Kathy say for me. Yeah, it's not just about putting stuff on the shelf, but it's about everything you do in your life. And we've said it a lot of times, like, this is not about being afraid. It's not about being scared of everything and worried about everything and having disaster mind about everything. It's just about thinking about what am I going to need? And then thinking about what might I need? And then doing all those things. Yeah, it's like I've always been the kind of person that carries tools in my vehicle because things might break. Mm-hmm. 99% of the time they don't. I keep tools in my truck and I never use them, which is awesome. But occasionally something breaks, and just having a wrench, you know, and that's prepping. It's not filling my truck with, you know, bags of beans. It's being ready for an unexpected situation. Mm-hmm. I kind of think of prepping like a coat. You wear a coat in the cold. It does not protect you from dying in the cold. It just increases the amount of time you can live in the cold before you die. So we're kind of just putting a coat on in every area of life where it insulates us from the cold. Mm-hmm. So we have our jacket on, so we don't have to. We have our prep jacket on, so if there's a crazy, say, riot or something, we don't have to go to the store. Our prep jacket has increased our time that we have to go to the store.
Mm-hmm.
Some people shop every day. I had a friend back when I was in college. He went to the store every day. He had a full-time job, grown man with a wife and kids, and they went to the store every day. They live in a tiny apartment. They had a big house with a big refrigerator, and they went to the store every day. So they had nothing in the house. I didn't understand at all.
Yeah.
I
don't want to go to the store.
No, I don't like
That's
going to the
the
store.
other thing. Like, I'm annoyed by that. I love the idea of only having to go like once a month.
Yeah.
If that. Yeah. If it's just as your standard and it can just be like something I go pick up at someone's house, even better. Yeah. I don't like going to the store.
I went to the store one day and he was getting 2 yogurts, and I was like, "Why are you getting 2 yogurts? That's what we need for tomorrow. You're buying tomorrow yogurts?" And yeah, he left to the store with like 4 things, and they were the things that he needed for the next day.
It's like, why don't you just, like, yogurt lasts a while.
Yeah, you could buy 10 of them.
You could buy like a week of yogurt.
Yeah,
it'd be fine.
But
you know,
at any rate, there are people that live that day-to-day kind of life, and there are people that live, paycheck to paycheck, and unfortunately, that's something that people don't always have control over.
Right, that totally used to be us.
Yeah. There's been plenty of times where we were struggling.
Which is a lot of why we started this prepping stuff before we were ever preppers. Like stocking up on sales and making sure that we had it so that if, a paycheck was short or, an unexpected bill came up, we had enough for, just a little, like our window used to be like a week,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, a lot of those same people took these government handouts last year and bought PlayStations and stuff like that.
Well, we got a grain mill.
We did. We also got a lot of food.
We did. We purchased a lot of extra food. But yeah.
But I apologize if I'm rambling.
You're not rambling. Sorry, I feel like I might be interrupting you. It's okay. All right.
So like having that, they got their jacket, they got their coat. Mm-hmm. There it was, that like buffer from the wave of the paycheck to paycheck, and then it disappeared, and then they didn't have a jacket. So now they're right back to that paycheck to paycheck when they had this opportunity to get that prepping coat on. But yeah, I guess so much of it's just about seeing opportunities differently.
Lifestyle, and I almost wonder if it's almost even like almost like the entrepreneur mindset of like always like kind of working an angle and seeing like a, maybe. And it's always too, it's like sometimes it's kind of like a little puzzle, like, ooh, I can figure out like a little puzzle, like, well, what if this happens? Well, then I can prep this, and then I can prep that, And then, ultimately, of course, too, it can become extremely overwhelming. I know that at first for me, starting to watch, I was just like, we're all gonna die. It's like this horrible, like, but realizing, like, after I started, it was actually originally, it was that Canadian prepper video. Remember, that was like one of the most excellent videos. And I keep mentioning this video that he had for, prepping, and I know that there's like, I know I've had people in the comments say that they don't like Canadian prepper, and that's fine. I do like him. I think he's great.
You have to just realize that he's kind of quirky.
He is. I don't know. I like him though. He's like I don't know. Anyway, I don't have to get into it. Like, I don't know. I just like him. He seems like a neat guy. But
he's a wealth of information for sure.
He is. He's absolutely a wealth of information. But this one particular video was just so excellent. Now, I'm going to find it again and link it down below. And it talked about, he called it his prepping pyramid. And that was so good. And it helped me really like zero in on everything. But then I also now have made a video that people have said was really good. I tried to make it good, and it's my video on prioritizing your preps, especially like on a budget. And it's kind of like after kind of getting all this, that is one of my, I think that's one of my strengths.
It's making me in the face.
We are like hyper today. We're like, excuse me. Excuse me. So like getting a ton of information and then like kind of disseminating it down, like trickling it down into like a thing to focus on. Like, okay, now after all this considered, this is what I focus on.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's one of my strengths. And so in that video, I talked about like, because there's, I mean, just pretty much every scenario that you can think of, you need to cover, I think it was 4 things. Your water, your food, your sanitation. I think that was it. And also shelter, of course. Shelter is very important. So assuming that you're in a bug-in situation, you're staying in your home, shelter should be mostly covered. But yeah, you have to sort of focus on those. And then under food, you have the ability to cook food without power. Underwater, you have like filtration and purification. You need to make sure that you have the ability to have safe water. So sort of like being able to boil it all down into stuff that you can focus on and then take, small but real action in those areas, and not get so caught up in, for instance, like I all of a sudden need a solar generator, or I need, like all this stuff that was like, well, that would be great to have. I'm not saying like a solar generator is not something that we should have. We don't have a solar generator. I've got 2 solar power packs that would charge phones. That's what I have, because I figured I'll at least get that. But anyway, sorry. So like I have that video, I'll link it down below too. It's 40 minutes long, but it is not rambling at all. The entire 40 minutes is content, and we're discussing real content. So, but it's a lot to cover. So I will link that down below for anybody who's kind of wondering where do they start. And that if you get overwhelmed, if you happen to be a beginner and get overwhelmed, hopefully that will help you out. So yeah. I don't know what we were talking about before that.
I don't know.
Yeah, you guys, I don't know what's up with us today. We're like hyper and like kind of slapstick a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. You guys can handle it.
They can. You're so cute. But yeah, so I think, yeah, prepping as a lifestyle. Yeah, it's just so many things to think about. And I feel like it's not just even a lifestyle. Like I was joking, like it's my identity. But like, I feel like Dash from The Incredibles defines who I am. But I think you are or you aren't. And either you already are because you're already bent that way and you're like fascinated by that, or you get to be that way because maybe something happens to you and you realize how important it is. But I feel like that can end up being the answer too for a lot of people who say, well, like, how do I get my husband on board, or how do I get my wife on board? Like they want to prep together. We are so ridiculously blessed, I think, in that we're both on board. Like we both agree that this is important.
Yeah.
But I know with some people they don't have a spouse that thinks it's important. So, and that to me, I also don't understand. I don't get that either. Like, if something's important to you,
yeah, should be important to me.
It's important to me. Yeah, and if it's important to me, it's important to you. Even if I don't get it, even if I'm not like with you, like every time it rains, he's like, I gotta go run. It's like, I know he loves running in the rain. It's like, okay, sure, but like, because I know this about you, when it rains, I'm like, you have to go run. Like, and I encourage him to go do that. I'm not gonna go out in the rain and run with him. I'm gonna sit at home and look at the rain from my window with like a cup of hot tea or something. But like, you want to go, but like, that's important to me. So I support you in that, even though I'm not doing it myself. So I guess I don't understand how couples exist where that would not be true.
Yeah.
Now, I guess it also may depend upon how the spouse is doing it. So like if it was an extremely irresponsible thing and there's some guy out there who just wants toys for his truck and is getting a bunch of, the solar generator and spending a ton of money on stuff that doesn't seem to make sense, maybe I would get that, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm going to do a book plug. If you guys haven't read Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, read that thing. It's amazing. it's not like a prepping book. It's just a leadership and life book. But one of the topics is about getting your team on board, and the key is the buy-in. They have to understand what the mission is and what the mission is for, like what's our goal, before they can have a buy-in. And like relating to business, if you have a new project or a new procedure and there's pushback on that from the employees, you need to get them to buy in. You need to show them why it's important and explain why this procedure has been in place and how it's going to benefit them and it's going to benefit the whole company. And I think there's a bit of buy-in on prepping. Like you got to really, it's sometimes it's not going to work, but it can't just be a simple, this is something we should do. Where's the buy-in? Where's the why? And laying out things that like we talk about in our couple of chats all the time. Things happen. There's disasters all around the world, and show that there's a good reason for it, and lay it out like, hey, I would like to buy a bag of beans and a bag of rice. And if hubby goes, well, we don't eat beans and rice, I'm a steak and potatoes guy or girl, then, well, here's the buy-in. Beans and rice last for a really, really long time, and they're really, really cheap, and they're really, really easy to store. So you know how like back in 2020 when it was really hard to find your steak and it was really hard to find your potatoes, and you were like, what are we going to do for food? Then we got beans and rice. It costs almost nothing. We got a week's supply of food for $50, and we don't have to do it. Just sits on the shelf. Doesn't hurt anything. It's not going bad.
Might actually be closer to 2 weeks of food.
Yeah.
Depending on how many people you have in your house.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So.
Sorry.
Yeah, here's our buy-in. Okay, it doesn't cost us very much. It doesn't cause us very much trouble, and it protects us just in case steak and potatoes don't. I know we don't eat beans. I know we don't eat rice. That's fine. But just in case steak's hard to find, we can eat some beans and we'll be fine.
You better start eating beans though.
Yeah.
If you're not used to eating beans, eat some beans every day.
You don't want to switch straight from steak to just beans.
No.
You'll
do it.
Be a balloon.
Gradually. Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah, taking that moment to explain the why, give the buy-in, and like it's really salesmanship a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm not much of a salesperson, but
I think you are. I think you don't think you are, but you are.
But yeah, if you can give that why and apply the why to that particular person's life, then there's a way to get the hook. Maybe,
hopefully.
Yeah, and it's not always going to work.
Some people just think it's straight crazy. But the thing is, like, what I don't understand though, but the thing is too, like, you can't always rely on people even waking up to it, even if they have gone through something. So like we've seen it, like people have gone through 2020 and they still think prepping is crazy.
Yeah.
Or, being prepared. How about, rather than, let's not call it prepping, because people think that that's like doomsday bunkers and stuff. So that's like one extreme of prepping. A bunker. Yeah. A bunker might be cool. I don't know.
Be quiet down there under 20 feet of sand.
You're just gonna go down there and have your alone time in your bunker.
Meditating, sitting cross-legged on the floor, so quiet.
Sage would still find you. You'd be banging on the door. Anyway, but so we have like that one kind of extreme end of it, and then I guess on the other end is just people who just still your friend who buys 2 yogurts at a time. Like it's like you have these kind of extremes of people.
He's grown as a person, by the way. He doesn't do that anymore.
Oh, good, yeah. But like, so you have that, but like, even when people have issues, they go through issues. Like there's people that got stuck on the I-75, was it in Virginia? They were stuck for over 24 hours because of the snow, which is just an awful, annoying thing. But, there were people, like, we were building our car kits, and putting together our car kits. And I don't know if that sounds crazy. Maybe it sounds less crazy now. Somebody might have thought it was crazy for us to be building a kit and for our cars. I mean, I'm wanting to build like a 3-day kit for our cars, that we could survive for at least 3 days just on like what's in the car. But I don't know if we'd be able to do that really with water, but anyway, there's a whole logistical thing with it, but now theoretically that looks a little bit more sane. However, so like now I'm like, how many of those people are now building car kits? The ones that got stuck, or people who watched that story. But unfortunately, probably many of them are not. It's like people live in Florida and don't prep for hurricanes. Like still a hurricane starts coming and store shelves get clear. Or you live way up in like the East Coast and a blizzard's coming and the store shelves get cleared because people still are not preparing.
Yeah, and winter happens every year.
Every single year.
And it snows big time every year.
Every single year. Yeah, and it's like, how do you not get ready for that if you live there? And it's like, we live here in Arizona. It's super unsustainable. We don't want to stay here. But like for us, we don't have like large weather events. So that's kind of the thing with us, is like, that's like the big plus, is we don't really have large weather events. We don't have tornadoes or hurricanes or earthquakes or or blizzards or any of that stuff. But what we have is extreme heat in the summer. And so if we lost access to water, that would be the biggest just tragedy of our area.
Yep.
So we have a ton of water stored up, that's kind of what we have. So I don't know, it's just, but unfortunately, I guess there are people who just don't think about those possibilities. They don't.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, where people deviate, because everybody's born, and they don't have any ideas about anything. And at some point, they have ideas. And some people will say, somebody will take care of me. And some people say, nobody will.
Yeah, and it's like the thing again in Virginia on the I-75, or was it 95? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You guys know what we're talking about, that all the traffic that got stuck. But government did not come to help those people. They couldn't get to them. Nobody showed up to help. So nobody was distributing food or anything. Now, granted, that was only one day.
Yeah,
so
they didn't need food.
People, you're gonna be fine.
They weren't hanging out. They weren't handing out warmed blankets or anything.
Yeah.
Space heaters or.
Yeah. So I don't know, because when you see it over and over again, disaster after disaster after disaster, nobody shows up to help for at least like 3 or 4 days.
So if you guys have ever realized how government works, somebody's got to sign a piece of paper saying, "Okay, all y'all can go."
Right.
And there can be some like really bad stuff happening, and nobody goes until somebody says go. So, and they got to look at, all right, how much money is this going to cost? And, do we have the resources in place to do this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And you're hours deep before anybody even says go.
Right.
And then you're more hours deep by the time people actually get boots on the ground, and then more hours until they're where you are.
Right.
So.
And there are many, many amazing people who do help. I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to belittle, but it's the system and the bureaucracy kind of surrounding that kind of prevents a lot of stuff, but also logistics. And, and it kind of does make sense too, that you're not going to just blindly send a huge group of people into an area without really knowing what's going on in there. Like there's so many things that have to happen before help really can arrive. And so it's like, we kind of have to be more self-reliant. Like, I don't know, it just makes sense to me. It just makes sense. Like, to me, I honestly, to me personally, I can't understand the mentality that thinks prepping is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even get that. Like, that doesn't compute in my mind. I guess because, that's, who we are. We're preppers. So I think it's crazy not to prepare.
Yeah, anybody that thinks there's going to be food on the shelf all of the time, forever, just because most of your life, up until 2020, I've never gone to a store and seen shelves empty. So 40 years of my life, You go to the grocery store, you buy food. 2020 happens, you go to the grocery store, you don't buy food. So even though I have 40 years of experience saying a thing is a certain way, I now see that that thing might not always be that way.
Yes, it's interesting. I just had a moment. I remembered something from my childhood that I haven't thought of in forever. I lived in Houston when I think it was Hurricane Andrew came through. I lived in Houston, Texas. Yeah, like you even know about it. Okay, because it hit Florida, right? And then it came up the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, that one thrashed Florida. Yeah, and then
it came through Houston too. There were empty shelves at that point. We were shopping, and there were empty shelves because of Hurricane Andrew in Houston. So I'm just remembering. Sorry, it was like I haven't thought of that in years and years and years. But like we were fine. We were just doing normal shop. But like you know how my grandma is. I was raised by my grandmother. So as far as like people being born and having different ideas, she always stocked sales, and she always had a big pantry stocked up, and she had everything, you know, she always was talking about stocking and making sure we had enough for whatever. But of course, so I was raised by my grandmother, who was raised obviously by my great grandmother, my great grandparents, who they went through the Depression. So we still have, I guess, a little bit of a Depression mindset probably put onto my grandma.
Yeah.
And then I kind of grew up with it naturally, but then also just as a little kid, I was always fascinated by, you know, like Native Americans and reading about them and how they preserved their food and dried the buffalo and made pemmican and did all that stuff. And I used to be so fascinated by that stuff as a little kid. And then Little House on the Prairie, and then later it was Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. I was just obsessed, just like so obsessed with these shows and like kind of frontier living and survival and stuff. So I've always had that in me to be interested in that. But yeah, I guess some people don't. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah.
I grew up in Arizona. Been in Arizona almost my whole life. So again, no natural disasters.
Yeah. We had tornado drills in school.
Yeah.
I remember that.
We just had fire drills.
Yeah.
So, we had like a tiny earthquake when I was a kid, and then there was like a tornado warning one time. It was like a super weird thing, but let's see, I've been in Arizona for 38 years, 37 years, something like that. And I have never experienced a natural disaster.
Yeah.
So I almost experienced one in Florida. But got on the plane just in time.
I guess I've never experienced a natural disaster either, because like I said, we did live in Houston when Hurricane Andrew came through, but nothing happened to us. There were horrible storms. I do remember horrible storms, but yeah.
So much of the disasters that we're kind of looking at in our future are really more man-made. Decisions of leaders that affect our ability to get resupplied, the actions of less than savory people making bad choices and
Agreed.
Causing chaos.
Yeah.
So as we sit here in Arizona, it's really more of a fear of people, not a fear, but like prepared for people to do the wrong thing. I guess our biggest disaster here would be a power grid failure.
In the summer.
In the summertime. Yep. That would be disastrous.
Yep.
Lots of people would die.
Mm-hmm. Very quickly.
Yeah.
Without water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so it's kind of like, even if you live someplace where there aren't natural disasters, you still have to say what if sometime.
Right.
And again, it's not that what if so I'm going to be afraid. It's what if so I don't have to be afraid.
Right. And you try to make decisions and just hope people around you will make good decisions as well.
Yes.
And yeah.
Probably not going to, but
Yeah.
Not all of them will, but some people will make good decisions.
Hopefully, yeah. All right. Well, I guess we probably exhausted that. Hopefully. Yeah. Anyway, let us know down in the comments below if you have any thoughts on prepping as a lifestyle and what that looks like or is, or do you agree? Like, do you agree with us that you feel kind of like that's just who you are as a person? Like you think it's crazy not to prepare, or did you come to prepping because you went through something that changed your mind and taught you something or whatever? Just let us know down below. And yeah, we're really eager to hear from you. Actually, we kind of live for the comments. We love the comments. Please comment. So anyway.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, yes. And leave us some love. Oh yeah. Just quickly, I mean, we're already over 40 minutes. We might as well just...
If you're still here.
Just, if you're still here... you must really love us, so hopefully you'll be happy to hear that our channel has officially been monetized. So that's a really amazing milestone, and I wanted to let you guys know that we have gone through and made the ads as... We're not going to make hardly any money, but...
No, we started doing it, so...
Well, I have made it so that they're not annoying. Because I get really stressed. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of ADHD and I deal with like I get stressed when I'm trying to watch a video and then ads are constantly popping up in the middle. So I have disabled that on our channel for while we have the choice. We will not have ads pop up in the middle, only at the beginning and then I guess at the end. I don't have any control over whether or not they pop up at the beginning or the end or whatever. But I've also chosen for all the ads to be skippable. And then also for there not to be the ones that pop up on the screen while you're watching, because I hate that too. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I want you to get content from this and not get advertised too hard on it.
Right. So that's what we have done. So you guys, just so you know, also if you do see an ad pop up in the middle of a video, can you let me know, because I have that unchecked. And I just went to look at another thing and I had to uncheck it again. So I almost are they rechecking it for me or something? I don't know, but I did that. I didn't even know that was possible, but I heard Heidi over at Rain Country, which is one of my favorite channels. She was mentioning in one of her videos that that's what she does, and it makes her not make as much money. And so I was like, you know what? If I ever get monetized, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure that ads are not popping up in the middle. And so, yeah. But anyway.
Yeah.
Good times. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yes, thank you for helping us reach that milestone to where now we are monetized and hopefully we can, pull in some extra income. It's a huge blessing to us. So, all right. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.